If you're in the market for one of these, a smartphone, then there's a lot that you need to consider in 2022. So for today, let's get into some of the big considerations when making that smartphone purchase decision. Hey, what up? It's your boy MobbJustice back again with another video. Now, we can all agree that making a purchase decision for a smartphone is a different decision to what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and even 15 years ago. So for today, we're getting into some of the nuances about what it means when you're out in the market to buy yourself a new device. As always, this video is brought to you by the team over at Liyon Media. Head on over to check out some of the crispiest photo, video, and audio content. That's www.lionmedia.com. Head on over, check it out, and just see what the team can do for you. A couple of years ago, I did a guide on how to buy a computer, and it seems that over time, as more and more of these have come out, this is one of the first iPhones, an iPhone 3GS. It seems as if buying a smartphone is more like buying a computer. Those are the things that you need to consider: storage, your RAM, processors, and then you get into some of the nuances such as your cameras, etc. So like buying a computer, one of the first decisions a person needs to make about buying a smartphone is what operating system you want to run on. Back in the day, on the smartphone side, there was Symbian, there was BlackBerry, there was iOS, there was Android, there was a whole sea of things that you could get into. But nowadays, a lot of people, you're only stuck with either getting into the world of Apple or getting into the world of Android that's made by Google. The importance of an operating system is that it is your interface with the device, so that usually determines the type of experience you're going to have first, and then secondly, it also affects the level of customization or personalization you're able to get with the device. It's one of the big things that we've been talking about for a long time when it comes to iOS on Apple's side, for example, that it's not really a customizable type of interface. And then thirdly, it also then affects how the rest of the factors that we're going to be talking about today are actually handled by the various systems that you have. The next key piece is storage. How much stuff can you keep on your device? Back in the day, an iPhone like this had 16 gigs in terms of its capacity, and at the time when this came out, that was a lot. But over time, we've evolved, right? This is an iPhone that came out in 2015, and it had 128 gigs to sort of show that evolution over time. And now you have iPhones that have as much as a 512 and even a 1 terabyte storage option. Key when it comes to storage is whether or not you have the ability to expand your storage, right? iPhones are notorious for not having expandable storage. What you get is what you pay for is what you get. So you need to decide what you're going to get because it determines your experience over time. I had a 16 gig iPhone 6 back in the day, and it was a trap because you'd constantly be filling up the storage because even just simple things, taking videos, apps, and having videos, whatever it was, the space fills up quickly. This is a Galaxy S10 Plus, and it has expandable storage. I actually have a micro SD card inside here, and it's helped me to expand the space in there. So that's a key thing, right? The thing with smartphones is that if you don't pay for storage in the beginning, right, in terms of your initial price, you will pay for it either later on when your space fills up quickly, or down the line if you have to buy more expandable storage. We see a lot of manufacturers moving away from expandable storage, and I think that's probably the wrong way to go, because expandable storage always allowed people to go get more storage later on in future, but now people are stuck with whatever they have at the beginning. The next piece is RAM, and basically that's random access memory, and it has to do with how much stuff can you actually do at a time. If you've ever had an experience where, let's say, you are on Instagram and then you go to a web browser on your phone, then maybe you go to your messages, then when you come back to your Instagram has to reload. It means that it's having a RAM issue, or it doesn't have a lot of RAM. So basically storage, as I said earlier on, is how much stuff can you have on your phone, but your RAM is how much stuff can you do on your phone at the same time. When it comes to processors on the side of computers, we often talk about Intel, and of late we've been talking about Apple and its M1, M2s, etc. In the world of smartphones, it's a little more diverse, but a lot of your high-end smartphones tend to use chips that come from Qualcomm. So you often hear about Snapdragon, and it's usually an 800 series chip of some sort. So Snapdragon 820, 821, 858, 888, those are all different chipsets. But of late, we've really been seeing a lot more diversification coming into the market. People have seen how successful Apple has been with having its own chips, and of late we've been seeing the likes of Google that has its Tensor chip that is being used in its Pixel phones, and then Samsung has always had Exynos chips that it has had alongside the Snapdragon variants over the years. And then on the side of Apple, it's a little less of a factor to consider, simply because your latest iPhones tend to have the latest chips in them, but at the same time some of your older chips tend to continue to perform well because of the optimizations that Apple does offer. Outside of the core computing type of things to consider when buying a smartphone, there are now the extra things, the things that make a smartphone, and one of the key ones is camera, right? This is an Oppo Reno 7 5G. Make sure you look out. I'm going to be reviewing this phone over time. I've been testing it for a few weeks now, and if you see on the back, it's got a couple of cameras, 64 megabyte, etc. And I think on the camera side, what people need to consider is firstly, what type of cameras do you have? It's always great to have, something that's wide and then something that can also punch in. But now you see a lot more extra things that are happening when it comes to, the physical cameras on the back of the phones. Second piece is image processing. Apple has, pretty good image processing these days. People call it computational photography, and one of the leaders in the pack has tended to be Google when it comes to its Pixel phones. And then tied to the whole camera debate, you've got your photos, and you need to also consider video, right? Are you someone who's taking reels? Do you take stories? Are you on Snapchat? In this day and age, are you someone who's on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, FaceTime? Do you care about that type of thing? Because now you need to be considering your front-facing camera and how it makes you look. Some of the front-facing camera tech that's coming out from Apple when it comes to center stage, keeping you in frame, and even Samsung, I think they also came out with a feature like that. All of those things are key, but a key thing is to go out online before you buy a phone, just to see the type of images that are being processed by a phone before you get one. Because smartphones are mobile, it means that they're battery powered, so the battery and battery rating is very important. I did a video that I will link just talking about power banks, and a lot of that theory that I spoke about at the time around battery capacity is relevant here. The key number is milliamp hours. That tends to be the rating that is had. These days we see phones coming in with 5,000, 6,000 milliamp hour batteries, but a lot of your normal flagships like your S22s, your iPhone 14 Pro Max, etc., are sitting in that 4,000 to 4,500 type of range. Back in the day, this was a pretty big battery. This is 2,800 milliamp hours. This is a Galaxy S10 Plus, if I remember correctly. This should be either 3,500 or a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. But as nice as all those numbers are, the key thing is just finding out how long your phone can actually last for through a day. The next piece to consider is port selection. I've spoken on countless occasions about how I don't like the fact that Apple took off the headphone jack from the iPhone, and that's a port that a person needs to consider. I'm in the world of creativity and video production, that type of thing, so it's important for me to have a 3.5mm headphone jack. There's a lot of work that we've done where a lapel mic, for example, uses this port. It's great, having phones that all have similar. You carry one pair of headphones and you know that you're using them. So that's a piece to consider. The next one is charging, because a lot of phones are now using this. This is a USB Type-C. That's what a lot of your Android devices are using. I have another one here. So these two Android phones are using USB Type-C. Apple is still using the Lightning port for a lot of its phones and as well as its accessories. But on the side of the Mac and the iPad, they have moved over to USB Type-C. So in this day and age, USB Type-C is probably your best bet. Apple is actually being compelled in places like Europe to adopt USB Type-C, but we wait to see how all of that is gonna go. And then the last one on the side of ports is in terms of charging, right? A lot of phones now come with the ability to wirelessly charge like this. This phone wirelessly charges, but this one doesn't. So if you're a person who cares about wireless charging, that's also something to consider. And then last, we have to speak about the ecosystem. At the beginning, we spoke about Android versus iOS and all of that. And I thought I'll bring it back again at the end here, because you really do need to decide where you're going to go. Because if you're on the side of Apple, for example, then you need to be thinking about the type of apps you'll be able to run on your phone, the type of accessories that you'll be able to have. How do the different products from a manufacturer all work and integrate together? If you're an Apple user, you know how well different Apple products work in unison together and all of that. But we see more and more of a trend where different manufacturers, the likes of Samsung, the likes of Huawei, Google, etc., are all trying to come up with their own suite of products just so that you can have, I think a good one is Xiaomi from China. You can have a Xiaomi TV, you can have a Xiaomi vacuum cleaner, you can have a Xiaomi lamp, you can have a Xiaomi smartphone, Xiaomi laptop, a Xiaomi tablet. There's so many things that you can do. Ecosystem leads me to my bonus 2 points. The first one is around software updates. One of the key things one has to consider when buying a smartphone is how long are you gonna keep the phone for first, and then secondly, how much do you care about having or running the latest software? And there are a number of reasons why someone would want to have the latest version of the operating system running on their phone. Tends to be around security and also app support. Past a certain point, different app makers don't support certain versions of your OS. WhatsApp is a good example. They only support Android phones that are running Android 4.1 and above, and on the side of iPhones, they only support phones that have iOS 12 and above. So iPhone 5S and above, if you have anything before that, it just doesn't work. Software updates on the side of Apple are excellent. I have a 2015 iPhone and it's running the latest version of iOS. But on the Android side, it tends to be a bit of a hit or miss. Samsung and your Google Pixel devices tend to have the best software support over years, 3-4 years, whereas other manufacturers, it goes down to as little as 1 year before your phone becomes unsupported. The last one is more a point of caution. When making a purchase decision, rather make that decision based on what the phone can do today as opposed to what it can do one day in the future. A lot of manufacturers tout great things for devices like this, but some of those things never come. I was a big believer in Windows Phone. For example, it was a platform that showed a lot of promise. It was a great interface, but one of the key pieces is that a lot of apps never came to Windows Phone. It was built to be this great competitor to iOS and to Android, but the app makers never came to the party. So there was a lot of promise on what the phone could do, a lot of great hardware, but there wasn't a lot of support from the community. And we've seen stories like this over the years, whether one can think about Motorola and its modular phones and things like that. So if you're making that decision, rather make that decision based on today than some dream of what it could do one day in the future. So that's been it for this video. As you can see, so many things to consider. What is great is the fact that we have reached that stage where so many smartphones out there are offering a lot of compelling features, and even at the different price ranges, you can get really good value for your money. Gone are the days where you had to get a flagship device for you to get, the bleeding edge. There are a lot of mid-range devices, for example. Think about the Poco phone that are offering really great specs, but coming in at a discount compared to some of the higher-end devices. And then one of the key things, as I said, is your operating system and optimization. For that operating system is going to be probably your key factor. How well does the operating system work, and how well does it work with the hardware components that it has? At the moment, the king of optimization is iOS. They really do a lot with the specs that they do pack into their phones. They control the hardware, they control the software experience as well, which is something that you don't see that much on the side of Android. So that's all things to think about. And then, as I said, how long you're going to keep the device for is going to be a really key consideration, particularly when it comes to those software updates. So that's been it. You can let us know what you think. Did we cover all of the bases? Because we're not trying to get, too far into the weeds or something like this, trying to do something, a lot more general, just so that you can use this as a guide when you're making your next purchase decision. You can let me know what you think. Did we cover all the bases? Is there anything that we missed out? What do you consider when buying a device? You can let us know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Hey, this is Baby G, and you're watching the Mob Justice channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Live it, love it, like it. This is the Mob Justice TV.